Welcome friends to another r/prorevenge video. As always, if you enjoy these videos, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. And our first story of the day is by Time's Ugly Stepchild, You're Just Cattle to Me. This story goes back pretty much 20 years now. To set the scene, I was working for a then cable TV company. The call center I was working at had been filled with guys poached from dial-up support companies countrywide to support this new super-fast broadband that was being trialed in country for the first time. 500k connections, woohoo! I say this because that meant our call center at the time was full of some of the best support engineers anywhere in the country. Some of the most intelligent people I have ever known. Anyway, after about a year there, 4 of us were asked to look into complaints sent to the managing director, hereafter known as Big Boss, about the service. Mostly these were the original brand Karens of the day, but occasionally the customer complaining was someone rather important, and they needed the special touch, so to speak. Turns out the 4 of us had quite different skills but complemented each other perfectly, and before long, we were firm friends with the Big Boss's personal assistant at head office, and had very good reputations to boot after some devilishly difficult issues. Oh yeah, this is before Google, so being good meant you knew your stuff, not just how to look it up. It was a great place to work. Turnover was practically zero. The fact all our staff were experienced before getting to us meant we knew what we were getting into. Then came the new director, hereafter referred to as a hole. A hole had come from another call center in the company, a customer services call center. He was also completely inept technically. Seriously, this guy once told me that directors don't use Excel and only Word, so I needed to copy all the spreadsheets into Word so he could modify the content and pass off his BS figures showing all was well. He didn't understand how Excel worked as it transpired. Anyway, all was not well. In the short time he'd been there, he had alienated most of the best staff. He tried to turn the staff into script monkeys as he wanted every case fixed in X minutes. We were rebuilding TCP/IP stacks, hacking registries. Heck, we even talked a few people through Win98 rebuilds. You ever try to talk your gran through changing a ringtone over the phone? Now try imagining getting Gran to rebuild Windows after Macacrap and SpyMintech competed to see which could screw up her machine faster. Now try doing it in 10 minutes, or get hauled into a hole's office to be screamed at for messing up his figures. Morale was utterly obliterated and we started losing good people. Head office knew something was wrong, so word was sent down the line that the Big Boss was coming for a meet and greet. That line went through a hole, so, of course, on that day, some of the more vocal amongst us were voted off. Those selected to meet the Big Boss were, I think the nice word is sycophants, or people who were instructed what to say and followed out of fear. Upshot, Big Boss went away thinking all was well, and there must be some other reason for the issues on site. My breakpoint came when my team was given an impossible task. By this point, I'd already handed in my 30 days. Was about to become a dad, so I needed to get a proper career going. He wanted a flow diagram of every possible fault we were dealing with and its solution, and he wanted it all on a single piece of A3 paper. We objected, he demanded, we failed, we got reamed. Our manager got reamed, and let me tell you, she defended the heck out of us. We tried in vain to explain the nature of the calls, to explain that the reason we paid these very clever people to do this job was because they were essentially playing tech support to a nation of people who had turned a computer on for the first time ever today, did something they didn't know was stupid, and broke their machine. That means their internet didn't work, hence our problem. His response, at a volume comparable with a tornado jet taking off at full burner, was, "I don't give a freak. Let me get this through your stupid freaking heads. You are nothing, and I am a director, and when I tell you to do something, you do it or I will fire every single one of you. I can replace any one of you anytime I want because you're nothing but cattle. Now get the freak out of my office." I went home livid. My girlfriend at the time, pregnant with our first, worked in the same office, so while I was getting out, she would have to continue with a-hole. Knowing how he intended to treat my friends and family, I needed to do something. I didn't have a clue what I could do. Friday, I go into work, ostensibly to say my goodbyes and do an exit interview, paperwork, and such. One of those goodbyes was a phone call to the Big Boss's PA. Me saying goodbyes was a shock because I'd been expressly forbidden to tell them over the previous month by, you guessed it, a-hole. She wanted to know why I was leaving. I told her. She asked me if I minded her telling Big Boss what I had said. I'll be honest, I didn't seriously believe anything would come of it, but what the heck, I thought. Sure, I'll get back to you soon, and she's gone. 20 minutes later, she calls me and says Big Boss wants to talk to me, so can he have my personal mobile number? I give it, and sure enough, minutes later the big man himself calls. The next 30 minutes is spent detailing why I was leaving, why we had lost nearly 100 people already, and had 18 resignations that week alone. Why didn't I hear about this when I was there the other week? So I relayed the little personal shuffle and the threats. This was my moment, and I tell you, I carped the heck out of that DM. I say, look, Big Boss, I get all you have is my word, and I could just be some disgruntled idiot. But my friends and family are going to have to work here after I've gone. And by family, I mean my pregnant girlfriend, so I have to do something. If you want to find out the truth, here is what you do. 1. Turn up on site unannounced for a day. 2. Send out your own email to the site as soon as you arrive, giving no time for a-hole and his cronies to get to anyone. Tell them to come to you if they have any concerns. 3. Here is a list of people that should corroborate much of what I said. The rest, it's up to them if they want to do something, then decide if I'm an idiot. After a bit more chatting, the call ended and I went back to say goodbye to everyone. I told a few people, including my manager, what I'd done and told them if Big Boss did turn up, to get in there and tell them what's going on. Then I bid them all farewell and said I would see them all at the mass leaving due at the end of the month. I'm at my new job the Tuesday after and I get a text from the girlfriend. Holy crap, Big Boss is here unannounced. More texts from other ex-colleagues saying pretty much the same thing. From what I gathered afterwards, Big Boss did exactly what I suggested and it played out pretty much as I thought it might. There was a queue, a long one. That night, a-hole was summoned to Big Boss's impromptu office and after that meeting, he went home. He was never seen again. I did get a call from Big Boss. He can't discuss details, but I'll be very pleased to know that I'm not an idiot. Leaving due was pretty cool too, I think. On entry, I was told I wouldn't be paying for a single drink that night. From there, my memory goes fuzzy to total blank. The hangover the next 2 days was brutal, but totally worth it. Okay guys, be honest. If you had to use Excel for your life, would you be able to do it? Let me know in the comments down below. I feel like if I had to use Excel, I would be able to navigate around a decent little bit, but there probably would be some kind of Googling needed. I'm curious to hear about you guys. This next story is by Purple Womat. Men only. Women can wait in the rain. This happened back in the 80s when women's rights were still a new thing in my country, and a lot of the older generation of men were not at all in favor. It used to be a thing where certain pubs or rooms in a pub were men only, or maybe you'd bring the wife, but definitely not where young single females hung out. One day, I was out shopping in the city center, and as they say, the heavens opened. It went from sunny to sheets of rain hurtling down. I was drenched and there seemed to be nowhere to shelter. There was a pub, but I didn't drink, and I'd never been in one, though I was of legal age. A woman popped her head out of the door and gestured me inside, saying, "You can wait it out in here, love." She seemed kindly, so I went in. Immediately, the bar fell silent. It was entirely filled with cap-wearing elderly men, and every one of them was staring at me with outright hostility. Still, the nice woman was behind the bar, and she gestured me over to a stool in the corner. "You can't be in here," a large red-faced man nearby said. "Women don't come in here." There was a general grumbling of agreement. "Don't mind them, love. I get to say who comes in and who doesn't," the nice woman said. "Now, would you like something to eat? You look freezing." I just nodded shyly. She settled me with a glass of Coke, and a few minutes and much male harassment later, came out with a full dinner. Roast beef, potatoes, gravy, roast vegetables, dumplings, the works. It was amazing. Eventually, the red-faced man had had enough. He strode over to the bar and settled in to yell at me from close quarters. Except the woman stopped him dead with a stare and said, "Don't you dare, this is my pub and I'm tired of you and your cronies running women out of here. Now go upstairs." He sputtered and got redder, but she folded her arms and off he trotted. Just as he was about to go through the door, she added triumphantly, "And you needn't expect any dinner tonight either." "What?" he said, truly horrified. "You didn't think that I cooked all that in 5 minutes, did you? That's your dinner she's eating." Turned out that she was the owner and he was her layabout husband. They lived upstairs. Passed by the bar a few months later, and it was much different. Open, friendly, flowers outside, and no old men. I just think that it's pretty easy to look at cultures like this and feel a very, very heavy cringe. It's nice to see this woman put that man in his place. There's just no need to treat other people regardless of gender that way. And it's good to see that even in a relationship with this person, that woman will not tolerate it and will stand up for what she knows is right. To me, that's insanely respectable, especially when your entire business seems to really attract all these people that don't really agree with that opinion. They're willing to say what they think is right, put it all out on the line, regardless of how it might affect their business. Or apparently their relationship. Our next story is by Taxman East. Stop throwing things like a child. This happened in high school, I believe my sophomore year. There was a boy in my English class who was a constant distraction. Some people thought he was funny, but he was an obnoxious and arrogant jerk that bullied people. He frequently got into trouble with the teacher because of the disturbances. One day we had a substitute. He took it upon himself to be extra disruptive that day. Since it was English, we had a dedicated time for reading books. He decided to take this time and start throwing pieces of paper at people. I tried to ignore it for a little bit because it wasn't directed at me, but then a piece of paper landed on my desk and he started laughing. So I said very loudly, "Will you stop throwing things and being such a child?" The substitute, who apparently didn't know what was going on, said, "Who is throwing things? Raise your hand." Immediately after she finished speaking, I said just as loud, "Yeah, raise your hand, child," which caused immediate laughter from the rest of the class. He seemed embarrassed. The fallout was that the next day, our English teacher took him out to the hall and chewed him out. He was no longer allowed to turn around in his seat for any reason or talk to anyone, and if he did, he would have been taken to the office. I'm sure after all of that annoyance and distraction this kid caused, it must have felt really good to finally just get a moment where you really just put them in their place. Finally being able to just turn it back around on them and kind of open their eyes as to how it feels for a lot of other people the way they've been acting. I guess you just kind of wish for a better ending in general than having to go to the length of literally do not turn around and don't talk to anybody. Our next story is by Beer You Bill. Feel entitled towards my data? You won't get the data of the next customers. I went to the checkout after grocery shopping. The cashier was pretty huffy to the customer in front of me already and asked for their zip code at the end of the transaction. Apparently, I committed a mortal sin by not using a divider between my pile of groceries and the next customer's stuff. I left plenty of room to the next customer though, where it was evident my pile ended. Because she complained at me, "Where's the divider?" No hello, no nothing. She rang up my groceries without a word, then told me how much I owe, and while I was pulling out my money, it ensued. "Zip code?" I say, "Sorry? What's your zip code?" I say, "I don't see why I should give it to you." She visibly rolls her eyes and says, "I need to type it in here." I say, "If you want my data or anything else I'm not obligated to give, then ask for it in a friendly way. I definitely won't give it to you now." She mumbled something about people being paranoid and that she'll just type the main city zip code in. I'm packing up my groceries while she's ringing up the next customer. Asks, "Zip code?" And he says, "I think I won't give it either." The customer that came after him was already chuckling, so I guess he also denied it, but I didn't see that as I was already on my merry way. I mean, I guess it might be a little bit of paranoia. I guess, your zip code isn't that very sensitive at a grocery store, but if I'm at the grocery store paying cash, why would I ever have to give you my zip code? That's when you break out the good old classic, "Yeah, my zip code is 69420. Wait a minute, is that an actual zip code? Apparently there's a postal code in Kentucky that's 42069, so maybe I'll have to consider moving. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel, and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.